What's up, Jet fans? Last night I watched Jets at Steelers Week 7. Um, it was an interesting game. Not a very good game, I guess. The final score of 15-37. One of those was definitely a garbage time touchdown by the Steelers, but just a pretty bad game nonetheless. A loss. Going down the rundown. Their record is now 2-5. A bit of an issue. My predicted record at this time was 4-3. However, I did get this prediction correct. I thought they were going to lose to the Steelers. I did not expect the Steelers to be as good as, well, at least their current record indicates. But I still thought the Steelers were going to beat them. Um, the big stories going into the game were for the Steelers, Russell Wilson would be starting, even though Justin Fields got them to a very good record and was playing decent. They wanted to switch to Russell Wilson. From a fan perspective, I actually thought that that might give the Jets a chance to win, right? Just because there's like question marks. Um, but obviously Mike Tomlin and he had some information because he was working with the quarterbacks. Like he obviously knows a lot more about the quarterback than us fans do. He thought Russell Wilson was the answer, and in this game, anyways, he was, as he had a pretty solid game. Like I said, scoring 37 points, is a pretty good offensive showing. And obviously, the big story for the Jets is this would be Davante Adams' first game as a Jet with Aaron Rodgers. So that was exciting. Lots of chemistry there. The media was hyping that up. Um, and it just did not go that way, I suppose. And in this game, anyways, we'll see what happens. Um, this game was pretty brutal. Um, if you look at their stats, specifically the Steelers, over 250 passing yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. They had a running back go for over 100 yards, and the other running back do pretty well too for being a number 2 running back. Um, and like I said, Najee Harris, he did get a garbage time touchdown, but a touchdown nonetheless. So the Steelers offense was just doing whatever they wanted, and the Jets offense was not. Going into the Jets offense specifically, um, almost another 300-yard game from Aaron Rodgers. I'm pretty sure he's on pace to be a 4,000-yard receiver, so that's exciting because the Jets haven't had one since Namath. Um, but also, the interceptions is an issue. 2 interceptions. One of them was definitely Garrett Wilson's fault, I would argue, but still, and the other one was not his fault, and it was a really bad interception, that first one. Um, and so that is a little brutal. Brees Hall had an excellent game, though, I will have to say, especially in the passing game. He was getting a bunch of yak, and it was, he was a over 100-yard receiver, plus 38 yards on the ground, and a rushing touchdown. Can't complain about that. This loss is definitely not his fault. And then going to the receivers, right? This game was definitely, I know it's like a stupid little saying, but a tale of two halves, I would say, because like the whole point of Davante Adams, I feel like, is almost not Davante Adams is going to give you a bunch of yards, but it's going to open up the other receivers as they have on the screen, Lazard and Wilson. Wilson is a number 1 receiver, I would argue, but now he's going to get covered by the number 2 corner. So that's a winning formula. And in the first half, I would argue Wilson and even Lazard, right? Lazard is a number 3 receiver, but he was having to be the number 2 receiver, and he was getting covered by the number 2 corner. Now he's getting covered by the number 3 corner. So, right? Because you have to focus on Adams. And I know it doesn't like literally work like that all the time, but I do think that that is like kind of how it works, where obviously defenses have to focus on players, which leaves other players open. So in the first half, I would say Davante Adams really didn't do much, but Wilson and Lazard and Hall were all a lot more open than we've seen them be in other games. So that's almost like Davante Adams doing his job. Um, Obviously, you would have liked to see a bigger game from Davante Adams. Like the first pass of the game was straight towards Davante Adams. You could have put the house on that. That was pretty obvious that was going to happen, and he dropped it though. It was a pretty wide open pass. Aaron Rodgers didn't throw the best ball, and then Davante Adams dropped it, and that was a little frustrating. But like I said, the first half, the Jets were doing good. Other receivers were getting open because there was such a focus on Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers was clearly throwing to him a lot, but still, other receivers were open. The Jets were up in the scoreboard, and then the kind of end of the first half, and then the second half, the Jets just couldn't score anything, and the Steelers put up 37 points. So first half they did well, second half not so much. To be an optimist for a second, like I said, Brees Hall had a really great game, and hopefully Davante Adams. He hasn't even been here for a week, so hopefully he will. It's weird to say he obviously has chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, but perhaps the rest of the team, like he needs to find his place. So if I'm being an optimist, hopefully he can figure more stuff out and get better. Right? It's not even been a week yet at the time of this game, so hopefully things will start clicking. Um, and yeah, so not a lot to report on the offense. I do the only things are one of the interceptions is not Aaron Rodgers' fault, but the other one was really bad. And Davante Adams, you would have liked to see a bigger game. I'm sure the media would have loved to see a bigger game. Um, so yeah, going to the defense, like I said at the beginning of this video, not a great showing. The Steelers were running the ball well. The Steelers were passing the ball well. Um, Not a good showing at all. The There were points in the game where if the Jets forced a turnover, then you have a wide open game. Perhaps the game, it's a competitive game, but they just could not get a turnover. Um, Pickens was blasting our cornerbacks, but once again, to be an optimist for a second, this defense was particularly injured. I want to say like four defensive backs. If you're playing three corners and two safeties, you typically have five defensive backs out there. And I want to say four of their starters were like injured like throughout the game or at the beginning of the game. Um like before the game started. So this defense was definitely not at full strength, but if this is going to be some sort of, vaunted defense, then I feel like, a couple guys go down, you can't let Russell Wilson led team score 37 points of you. Uh, but they did. And once again, Russell Wilson was playing really well. I actually like him a lot more than the media likes him, I'd say. Um, but 37 points is not a good showing at all. But to be an optimist, this is not their defense. They had a lot of backups in, a lot of injured players. Sauce Gardner, I think, was probably playing injured, and he was playing with a bunch of backups in the secondary. So this is not the true Jets defense, but they are. It's I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but you would like to at least stop one aspect of the offense. Either stop the pass and let them run all over you, or stop the run and let them throw all over you. And this team let the Steelers do both. So I think that's a bit of an issue. But the game's over. I do want to say a quick shout out to Xavier Newman because that was a scary moment on the game. So hopefully he's better and safe. But going beyond this game, I suppose the Jets are 2-5. You can only lose two more games and maybe make the playoffs, or three more games and have a winning record. Um, and they got quite a few games left to go, not even halfway through the season. But I will say we're entering a bit of an easy stretch. So, trying to be an optimist for a second, this defense was not the real Jets defense. Hassan Reddick, he's coming to play, so that's good. He will be a good addition to the defensive line. Um, any ill will towards him, I was seeing fans were saying, "Oh, never mind. We love him now. We need him." So hopefully he can help this defense out. He's supposed to be a great player. Um, and if the Jets defense gets healthy, hopefully the Jets defense can be better than this game because they did not play well at all. But like I said, they were pretty injured. And we're entering a bit of an easy stretch as well, trying to be an optimist for a second. We play the Patriots next. They're one of the worst teams in football. I know they're the Patriots, which is scary to us Jet fans, but we should be able to destroy them like we did last time. Texans, that's not really an easy game, but it's also the Texans. I don't know. It's not like an impossible game. It's not like we're playing an undefeated Chiefs game, but I would still expect to lose that game. And then Cardinals, same record as us. Colts, they have quarterback controversy. They don't have a starting quarterback. Um, Maybe we can beat them. Bye week, the Seahawks, like I said, the Geno Smith stuff has kind of cooled down. Hopefully, that's a winnable game. Dolphins, Tua should be back at that point, or maybe he gets injured again. Um, but it depends on how healthy he is. But if he's not playing at full strength, that's a very winnable game. The Dolphins are really bad without him. And so adding an injured quarterback hopefully isn't going to make all their issues go away. Maybe they would have traded Tyreek Hill at that point. Jaguars, really bad team this year. Um, I hated the Trevor Lawrence contract, and that's already hurting them a lot. Rams, once again, this is not the Super Bowl winning Rams. This Rams team is a lot worse than we're used to. Bills, not an easy game, and then Dolphins, same thing I said about the other Dolphins game. So we're entering a bit of an easy stretch where maybe we only lose two more games. We lose to the Texans and the Bills. That's a that's a 10-7 record. That's pretty close to the playoffs. A playoff caliber team. So I guess I'm trying to be an optimist here. I think we're entering a pretty easy stretch of games. Obviously Texans excluded and Bills excluded. And I hope the Dolphins the Dolphins are easy games. If the Dolphins get back to full strength and are 100%, then this season is over. But if the Dolphins are still figuring stuff out and are still dealing with injuries and stuff, then this season is definitely the playoffs are not out of question here, but it all kind of depends on the Dolphins and winning the games we're supposed to win, right? Because on paper, I'm saying this is an easy stretch, but the Broncos was also supposed to be an easy game, and we lost to them. So on paper, this is an easy stretch, and the Jets defense is adding Hassan Reddick. Hopefully, they're going to get healthy. Davante Adams is going to figure stuff out, but we can have all this on paper stuff, but then you play the Broncos and you lose to them in a terrible, terrible fashion. So who's to say, really? But I I, I want to see what, like, if we lose to the Patriots next week, then the season's over. If we start losing these winnable games like to the Cardinals and the Colts, then the season's over. But but we could also go on a run if we beat the Texans, which would be unexpected. Then maybe hold on now, this season's not quite over yet. So we'll have to see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Goodbye.